Welcome to Theological Grazing.
I recently read R.R. Reno's book, The Return of the Strong Gods. And so it's been on my mind a lot, and I found his work to be fairly compelling. It does fall flat in the end. It doesn't give any good kind of next steps that you can follow up with. And he admits that in the book, but I did find overall it to be a really compelling idea of how we got to the place that we are in our society, culturally, politically. And so his argument is basically that following World War II, the post-World War II consensus began to think that the reason that World War II happened was because of what Reno terms the strong gods. So these strong affections that call forth devotion, like nationalism or other isms, Nazism. This strong affection for a people or a place or whatever it might be that begins to trump other things and lead to, they believed, the barbarism of the Nazis or others. And so the solution that seems to have been proposed and has been in some sense implemented throughout our society and our culture was a need to move toward an openness where you don't have these strong gods anymore. You have only weak gods. You have weak affections, none of which could commandeer your life to such an extent that it might lead to another war. So he speaks of this idea of openness, that everything began to focus on this kind of openness. You can't have such strong loyalties to anything or anyone because it may end up leading to you harming someone due to your extreme love for this person or place or thing, this ideology. So all of a sudden you have this growth of a kind of ideology of weakness where the way that you grow is by leaving behind those strong affections. You don't need those strong affections for place, right? There needs to be more of an openness. So all of a sudden you get this kind of pluralism, right? Every place is as good as any other, and you shouldn't think of it any differently. Any people is as good as any other. So you get this kind of multiculturalism where, I'm supposed to have the same level of affection for everyone in every place as I do of my people in my place. There really shouldn't be a my people in my place. You get this idea of openness. He ties it even down to things like, national borders. You don't need strong borders. You should have a very open idea of society. You get it into ideologies. You shouldn't hold anything too strongly. This kind of pluralism within religion, for instance, where religious affections too need to be tempered by this understanding that really there's this openness, that everything has some truth, right? Truth is everywhere, and everybody has a piece of it. And so these weak affections and weak attachments that have tried to be, some have tried to inculcate in others. This is something that was, in some sense anyway, actively pushed. It's not to say that was some kind of conspiracy about it, but there were many within, kind of elite circles, those who are powerful and influential, who thought that this was the problem. But that wasn't the problem, was it? There really wasn't the problem. The problem was these various ideologies that led to such conflict were wrong, were sinful, were not right. And yet they were these kind of totalizing worldviews that had to force submission in some way or another. There are many ways that these worldviews were wrong, but simply to argue that the reason they were wrong was because they were basically really believed, right? They were really held to. That isn't actually the problem. And what we find over time and what we are seeing today, Reno argues, is that we have what he calls the return of the strong gods. That people actually can't put up with these weak affections for long. The natural, strong affections that people have will come out. And if they don't come out in a natural way toward a particular people or family or place or religion, if they don't come out in that way, then they're going to be coming out in an unnatural way. Right? So this is what we see on the kind of totalitarian left today. The side of our culture that says if you refuse to give your child hormones if they put on a dress when they were young, even though they're a boy by nature, well then that means that you have to have your children taken away, right? You are not submitting to the way things are supposed to be. Well, you notice that's a very strong God. That's a God that demands everyone submit to it. You see it with those right now as Roe versus Wade was overturned, and those who are saying not only should we in our democratic state be able to have abortions, but we have to force every place to offer abortions, even if it means setting up these abortion mills, these abortion camps on federal land in states that won't allow abortion, right? You have to force it. Well, this is a kind of strong God. Now, thankfully, the unnatural strong gods, I think, are much weaker than the true strong God, for one. Obviously, this is a literary motif. Reno's not actually arguing for some kind of polytheism, like in ancient Rome or something like that. But it is true that these strong natural loves and affections, these loyalties that we have that are natural, that are innate within us, they inevitably are going to rise either in a natural way or a distorted way by sin. And one of the maybe blessings in reading this, as I was thinking about it, and one of the things I would encourage you with, is that as these, what I would term as maybe false strong gods seek to reassert themselves, right? Gods that do oppress, that seek to destroy the image of God in humanity, these demonic strong gods. As these things rise, we can be of good hope and courage, because we know that our God is the God who rose from the dead in dominion over all other rulers and powers and principalities in this world, and who in him, in Christ, all of our affections can be rightly ordered. This is part of what it is to become like Christ, that our various loyalties and affections are going to be more properly ordered as they are oriented primarily toward God himself. And so as we see kind of the chaos that is erupting throughout society, as people kind of stake their claim on their own particular strong God, whether that be reason, whether that be nationalism, or whether that be Christianity, whether that be Christ, we can have the hope knowing that, not only does our God win in the end, but also all other strong gods, all other strong loyalties and affections will be properly ordered by him and in him. Well, that's all, folks. If you could help me out, rate and review this podcast, share it with a friend, go ahead and email me if you have any questions. We're out.